the responses, the active participation in every respect, it is something that demonstrates Team India spirit. And I'm reminded of what Mahatma Gandhi had once said during the freedom movement, that a small group of determined and like-minded people can change the course of history. It is a very famous quote that he had made in the early stages of the freedom struggle. And today, in some sense, and particularly the last session, was our own humble contribution to give freedom from poverty to our people, give freedom from maybe lack of health care or lack of or nutrition or lack of development, lack of education, skilling, prosperity, you can call it whatever. And if we have to free 141 crore by last count, expected to go up to 160 crore, my own gut feeling is we'll stop at about 150, 152, 53 and then start tapering down, because I think the world is not factoring in, or statisticians are not factoring in, the fast pace of education and awareness about population. But even at that level, we are looking at 1.5 billion people out of 8 billion people. 20% nearly, or 18% of the world. And in some sense, we are a privileged section sitting here. We are unicorns and decathons in this room. We are large financiers in this room. We have people who have dedicated their life to the service of the nation, like our secretary, other colleagues from various states and central government, like Professor Jhunjhunwala, who could be in their own right billionaires or millionaires making money in the private sector with their capabilities. And Professor Jhunjhunwala, instead of sitting and sweating it out at the IIT Madras campus many years after retirement, or even in the years he served in Delhi to help us get technology focused, he could jolly well have, instead of that, been doing his own startups with the kind of ideas he has, the kind of startups he has mentored. He could have tried to keep a 10%, 20% share in each of those startups, instead of running around the country pleading with people to encourage or mentor others. So there's, everybody in this room has contributed. And it's our job now to give back to society, from which we have received so much in different forms. And I think your engagement today, in a way, is in the spirit of wanting to give back what I can do for the nation, what I can do to benefit the next generation of Indians, what I can do to leave behind a better country for the next generation. And in that spirit, if all of us continue to engage, continue to partner, continue to give ideas to this story, to the Vision India at 2047 movement, then the optimistic scenario will surely prevail, Mr. Pal. I'm, of course, very optimistic. I feel restless at anything less than 40 trillion. Only Madam has messed around with my mind today. And now I've already got my team working on... Anuj, kuch banaya? Does it work at the numbers I gave you? 47, exact? Now show me that paper. As soon as she finished giving that idea, I jotted down on a piece of paper how I think it will come to 47. I can be boastful. I'm not being humble at all on this. I wrote on this paper, here it is. I said, $47 trillion in 2047. Use 8% GDP, 5% inflation, 2% rupee depreciation. 8 plus 5 minus 2 is 11. Work out and give me the number, and he just told me it's 47.8 trillion. I thought it'll work at these numbers. And this is very much doable. I don't think anybody in this room will disagree that we can do an 8% real growth. Then I've also added, if you see, there's a small paragraph here where I've added, we can reduce inflation by 2%. Instead of 5, make it 3. In which case, the rupee depreciation also will be only 1%. Broadly, you can assume rupee will depreciate at about half, sometimes even less than half of the inflation level. And I'm one of those who believes that rupee will start appreciating 10 years from today. Will be in the upward trajectory. Maybe faster, but no later than 10 years. I don't know if Nitin Kamath is picking up any clues from that. But this is really the future that we as a team should be focused on, should be working on. By the way, Shraddha, I've already taken out that article. I've run through the names. It starts with Alia Bhatt and has some really very, very interesting founders of different startups in this compilation. And they've said it's only the beginning. There'll be many more to come. So I'm sure in that 47 trillion, our sisters and our daughters are going to play a big, big role. And it's never too late to play that role. I mean, the Nika story tells us that age is only a number. It's only in the mind. After what, 25, 30 years with Kotak in different ways, she started when at 50 probably. And look at the success story, one of the decathons that we have out of 4, right? Yesterday, Bangalore was being a little boastful about the 40 unicorns. And we're trying to suggest everything is in Bangalore. So while I'm in Bangalore, I recognize and respect that. But a word of caution for all of you from Bangalore, that you better start, don't get complacent, move little faster, because Mumbai is not too far behind. मैं मुंबई से आता हूँ, मेरे को लगा ये हो क्या रहा है यहाँ पे. So I took out the statistics. Mumbai is at 35. So Manisha ji, better take this message back to Devendra Fadnavis and Eknath Shinde ji. They are at 40 unicorns. You are at 35. Sorry, not Mumbai. Delhi is at 35
Sir,
unicorns.
we are 27.
I'm coming to you. No, you're not 27. You are 17.
27.
जो मेरे पास 107 की लिस्ट है मैडम.
हम भी हैं.
तो आप मुझे नाम दीजिए. But Delhi is at 35, fast catching up. Mumbai is still behind, so I wanted to give everybody a message that you be cautious, don't get complacent. You better put your act together. This is a very low number. We need to get the financial capital activated. Otherwise, yesterday Mr. Bommai has already made a comment publicly saying that at this speed at which Bangalore is going, we'll displace Mumbai as the financial capital. I'm only saying this in the spirit of competitive yet collaborative federalism. We want to see cooperation, but we want to ignite the spirit of competition amongst different states, different startups also. Similarly, we should see that competition amongst our incubators. I don't know whether we have a directory of incubators, how much of it is in public domain, whether we have all the facilities, the strength areas, the kind of mentors that are there with their CVs, whether they are focused on particular areas, whether we have a compendium of that out in public domain. If not, I would urge the department to immediately come out with a compendium. It should have necessarily mentors, details, and any specialities that are associated or any prominent names, so that people can also start picking and choosing incubators where they feel they can get the best. Similarly, we must see a second round of incubators being encouraged. For example, we have 40 plus campuses of NIFT, NID, Institute of Packaging, Institute of Foreign Trade, and the Leather Development Institute. Those 40 campuses, or the 7 textile research institutes, these are low-hanging fruits. They have research cells, they are already into innovative stuff, they have scientists in their teams. Maybe if industry can be, and they have actually board of governors which is industry led. They are all autonomous bodies. So we should look at all of these also becoming incubators. I'm only giving this as a suggestion. Then pick up the thread from that and find out where else we can have incubators in the emerging towns. That's a new terminology which will be an outcome of this particular vision at 2047 meeting. Similarly, I think with G20 coming up and with the effort to have a Startup 20 launched during our presidency, which will then become a permanent feature, I hope, and I'm sure it will be. The way Prime Minister Modi is driving the whole initiative from the front, and you saw the adulation that India was getting in Bali. And I don't know if you have heard the comments of the US administration. I think we may have just tweeted it also. Yesterday at a press briefing of the White House, when they were asked about the G20, the comment they made was, it was the whole response was about India, that India played a decisive role. Is that the right word? Essential. India played an essential role, basis which today we were able to come up with a communique. Otherwise, as you may be aware, through the G20 presidency of Indonesia, all our ministerials, everywhere, we could not come out with a communique, we only came out with chair's text, which is what the chair designs a kind of report card of the proceedings and issues it. Nobody in the room may necessarily agree with it. So finally, at the end of it, we got everybody together. The entire text is based on the Prime Minister's now famous statement, this is not an era of war. His statement that dialogue and diplomacy will have to prevail. And his own personal efforts to bring all sides together to have a discussion and sort out these issues. And of course, another major initiative that India has been at the forefront, that the nuclear option should not even be considered as an option. These are the three pillars of the communique. And India, in a way, played a heroic role in saving multilateralism at the G20. So I'm sharing all this because it only means that much more responsibility on us to make sure the Startup 20 idea is a success. It's India's contribution to the world. So we all will have to put in our best foot forward. It can't be a government engagement. It will have to be a collective effort of industry to make Startup 20 a success. It will also be an opportunity for us to showcase to the world our ecosystem, the way we are promoting it, the passion of our young boys and girls with which we are working in the startup ecosystem, the professionalism in our entire plans for the startups, and how we are trying to create this team spirit. And, team can have maybe one or two connotations. We could have T for technology very clearly when it comes to our startup systems. E could be entrepreneurship. We could have efficiency. We could have other E.
I was hoping for education.
Education also, but that would limit the
Yes.
The whole idea. But I think entrepreneurship would cover everything.
Yes.
A larger. A could be accelerating the program. It could be about affordability of the program. It could be about access. There's several ways we could define the A of our team. And M, again, could have a multi-pronged approach. But I would think the most critical element, if I can understand from all of this, are only two: mentorship and money. So if we can work in this spirit together and get outcomes which are now aspiring for much, much faster, accelerated growth of our startup ecosystem, I don't see any reason why we should settle for the third largest startup story, or why we should, as a large country, only have one Silicon of the East, Silicon Valley of the East. Not to take it away from Bengaluru, we are sitting in Bengaluru, we are guests of Bengaluru, and I still have a few hours to go and I want to get back out of Bengaluru. But clearly, we can do much more. Why I did this maths was really not to talk about Bangalore or Delhi. I did this math because when I ran through the list, I saw that we really haven't been able to reach out to more places. A place like Pune, why should it have only 7? It's an education hub, it's a manufacturing hub, it's a technology hub. In every respect, I would have thought there would have been much more action and outcomes over there. Hyderabad, another place which we always thought was associated with technology, with Cyberabad and all of that. 2. And this is food for thought for all of us in Startup Advisory Council. It's not about where each one of us comes from. It's for all of us to think and deliberate and see how we can change this equation. Chennai, and I've been to many incubators, but nothing to beat what IIT Madras has done. But 5 unicorns. So I'm just saying, and for that matter, I would urge either we hold a Startup Advisory Council meeting at the center in IIT Madras, or whenever you get a chance, I would urge all of you who have not visited the IIT Madras campus on research and innovation to certainly make it a point to visit that. I don't know what percentage of this room has done it, but it's an eye-opener. And the work that's happening there can be a role model for many other incubators. Of course, the size and scale is huge there, but in different forms we can have some learnings out of that. I think we'll have to have more frequent workshops and such dialogues. The advantage of this one has been the physical and personal connect. We were able to actually understand each other far better than a VC, where of course people switch off their cameras so you don't even know who's on it, who's off it, where you're waiting for your turn or you raise your hand and if the moderator sees it or doesn't see it, you don't know. I think this two-way traffic and engagement was also very interesting. And the advantage of an offsite is that you remain focused on the subject. You're not in and out. I was a little in and out because I have some international commitments. I had to fulfill some VC with my Canadian counterpart for the FTA with Canada and stuff like that. But all in all, I think a very, very successful engagement. Big thank you to all the participants. A big thank you to the Startup India team for the wonderful work they have done. Big thank you to all the participants of the various sessions. And we've had some very engaging outcomes. I mean, I actually have a output of all the discussions and what has been has come out of it. Maybe you can sanitize it and then circulate it to everybody, because in a way this will encapsulate the big picture of our two-day workshop and the discussions. Just make sure that it's covers everything and remove some of the ordinary things. I mean, there's creates small things which can easily be eliminated, so that it's crisp reading and can become a little bit of a calendar item for everybody to see if they are able to address some of the ideas that we have got out of this workshop. So thank you very much. As they say, the work does not end here. I would like to believe this is just the beginning of a new journey. Vision India at 2047. Goalposts have been changed by Madam, and now with this new goalpost before us, let us see if we can change the needle, we can move the needle in the national mindset and change the people's often, the doom and gloom or this scenario of despair that is there in certain sections of society. I don't believe most of India does go with that mindset. And of course, political election results do seem to suggest that most India doesn't go with that negativity and the mindset of failure. Most of India is positive today. most of India wants to be positive, wants to think about the future with confidence. And all of us will be the torch bearers of that positivity, of that confidence, which I hope we take away from Bangalore. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, sir. We are very thankful and grateful for your guidance and for your vision, sir. The very conception of this, the inception of this idea of having this workshop